Getting $2 as a gift might sound like a cruel joke, but for me, it was the final insult in a lifetime of being treated like the unwanted child. My parents showered my sister with everything: expensive vacations, designer clothes, and eventually, a brand new BMW. And me? I got scraps, hand-me-downs, and hollow words. That night, as I held those two crumpled bills, something inside me snapped. At 2 a.m., I packed a bag, walked out, and decided they'd never see me again. Growing up in my family felt like watching the same movie on repeat, only I was never cast as anything more than the background character. My sister was the star, the golden child who could do no wrong. If she wanted something, she got it: designer clothes, fancy gadgets, weekend trips with friends, all paid for by my parents. Birthdays turned into full-blown events for her, complete with decorations, expensive gifts, and endless attention. When it came to me, though, celebrations were often forgotten, gifts felt like afterthoughts, and I learned quickly that my hard work or achievements barely registered. I wasn't lazy; in fact, I worked harder than anyone. I kept up with school, helped around the house, even picked up small jobs as I got older. But no matter how much effort I put in, it was as if my existence barely mattered. If my sister failed a class, my parents found excuses, blaming the teacher or claiming she was too stressed. When I got good grades, they brushed it off as expected, offering little more than a nod. The imbalance was more than material, it was emotional. Over the years, being constantly overlooked left a quiet ache that grew heavier with time, turning into a simmering resentment I could no longer ignore. That night, as I sat alone holding those two crumpled dollar bills, something inside me snapped. It wasn't just about the money, it was about a lifetime of being invisible in my own family. I realized then that no amount of trying, no amount of proving myself, would ever make them see me as worthy. The thought hit me like a wave: if I stayed, I'd be stuck in this cycle forever, slowly drowning in their indifference. So I made the quietest, yet boldest decision of my life. At 2 a.m., while the house was asleep, I packed a small bag, just the essentials, nothing more. My heart raced with every creak of the floorboards, terrified someone might wake up and stop me. But nobody stirred. For once, the silence worked in my favor. As I stepped out into the cool night air, fear wrapped itself around me, but underneath it was something else: freedom. Each step away from that house felt lighter, as if chains I didn't know I carried were finally breaking. Leaving home felt liberating, but reality hit me the very next day. With nowhere permanent to go, I crashed on a friend's couch, clutching a small bag of clothes and the last of my savings. Nights were restless, mornings came too soon, and the weight of starting over without a safety net felt crushing. Still, I refused to crawl back. I picked up late shifts at a local diner, sometimes doubling them with part-time cleaning jobs. My body ached constantly, but I kept telling myself that every hour worked was a brick in the foundation of my independence. Money was tight, but I learned to stretch every dollar. I taught myself basic budgeting, cooking cheap meals, and saving even when it felt impossible. Slowly, little victories started to stack up. My first steady paycheck gave me a sense of pride my parents never had. A few months later, I scraped together enough for a small, run-down apartment. The walls were thin and the furniture secondhand, but it was mine. Those early days were brutal, yet they shaped me. Every struggle, every sleepless night became proof that I didn't need my family's approval or their handouts. I could build a life on my own terms. Time has a strange way of rewarding persistence. What once felt impossible slowly became routine, and those endless shifts at odd jobs eventually opened doors to better opportunities. I landed a steady position in a small company, one that actually valued hard work, and for the first time in my life, I felt seen. With consistent income, I upgraded my apartment, filled it with furniture I bought myself, and even allowed small luxuries I never imagined affording before. Each step forward was a reminder that my worth didn't depend on anyone else's approval. Beyond work, I built connections that felt more genuine than any family bond I'd known. Friends became my support system, celebrating my wins and lifting me through setbacks. They weren't bound to me by blood, but by choice, and that meant more than I could put into words. Through them, I discovered what love and loyalty were supposed to feel like. Meanwhile, my parents never truly reached out. Their silence confirmed what I had always suspected: I had been little more than a shadow in their eyes. Instead of breaking me, that realization healed me. I didn't need their validation. My happiness, my progress, and my self-worth were mine to define. While I was piecing my life together, my sister's world was quietly unraveling. The shiny BMW that once symbolized her golden child status became her downfall. She racked up tickets, skipped maintenance, and eventually totaled it in a reckless accident. Without the safety net of responsibility or discipline, she drifted into financial chaos, maxed out credit cards, unpaid bills, and a lifestyle she couldn't sustain. My parents, who once shielded her from every consequence, grew bitter as the reality sank in. The daughter they had poured everything into couldn't hold her life together, let alone support them as they aged. That's when their attention shifted. Suddenly, the child they dismissed, the one they handed $2, became the one they needed. Their calls started coming in, messages filled with a new kind of urgency, asking how I was, pretending to care, but always circling back to one thing: what I could do for them. When their messages poured in, I felt no rush to answer. On the rare occasions I did, my responses were polite but cold, stripped of any warmth they had long ago denied me. I didn't shout, I didn't argue, I simply lived my life without them. That, I realized, was the sharpest revenge of all. The irony was almost poetic. They had invested everything into the daughter who squandered it all, and in the process, they lost the one child who had the drive to succeed. My triumph wasn't about proving them wrong with words, it was about thriving in silence, building a life so solid they couldn't touch it. And while regret weighed heavily on them, freedom carried me forward. Sometimes revenge doesn't come in shouting matches or dramatic confrontations, it comes in silence, distance, and growth. Walking away at 2 a.m. was the hardest decision I've ever made, but also the one that saved me. My parents still cling to the daughter they spoiled, but they lost the one who could have truly been there for them. And that's the real twist: the best revenge isn't hurting them back, it's showing them I never needed them in the first place.